In a quiet corner of the world, far away from the noise of busy cities, there was a small and peaceful village named Sundarban. This village was simple, calm, and full of gentle beauty. Green fields spread out like soft blankets, and tall trees stood proudly along the narrow, dusty roads. Birds sang early in the morning, and in the evenings the sky glowed with warm orange and pink colors. Life here moved slowly, just like the calm river that flowed beside the village. People knew each other by name, and every face carried a kind smile. In this humble village lived an old woman named Usha. Everyone called her Daddy Usha because she was like a grandmother to all. She was small, thin, and walked with a wooden stick, but her eyes were always bright and full of warmth. Her tiny house stood at the edge of the village, made of mud walls and a roof of dried grass. There was nothing fancy about it, but inside it felt peaceful. As if the walls themselves carried love, Usha lived alone, yet she never complained. Every morning she sat outside her home with a cup of warm herbal tea, watching the world wake up. Children often visited her because she told stories filled with love and kindness. Adults came to her when they needed advice, and she always listened with patience. She had a special way of making people feel lighter, just by speaking a few soft words or giving her gentle smile. But what made Usha truly special was her unshakable hope. Life had not always been easy for her. She had seen many difficult days, many losses, and many storms. Yet she never allowed sadness to rule her heart. She believed that every morning brought a new chance. Every difficulty carried a hidden lesson, and every person had the strength to rise again. She often said, "Hope is like a small lamp. Even when darkness is very big, a tiny lamp can still light the way." Because of this belief, villagers felt stronger whenever they met her. Whenever someone lost courage, Usha would remind them that hope, even in the smallest amount, could change a person's life. One cool winter morning, a young girl named Mira came quietly to Usha's little house. Mira was usually a cheerful child. She loved to run in the fields, help her mother in the kitchen, and laugh with her friends. But that day, her face looked pale, and her eyes were full of sadness. She walked slowly, as if her feet were too heavy to carry her worries. Usha noticed her immediately. She gently patted the space beside her on the wooden bench. Mira sat down without saying a word. For a few moments, there was only silence. The wind moved softly through the trees, and a bird cried somewhere in the distance. Usha waited patiently, knowing that sometimes hearts speak slowly. Finally, Mira whispered, "Daddy, I don't know what to do." Her voice trembled, and Usha could hear the pain hidden inside those few words. She placed a warm hand on the girl's shoulder and said softly, "Tell me, child, what is troubling you?" Tears rose in Mira's eyes. She tried to blink them away, but one tear slipped down her cheek. "My father is very sick," she said in a broken voice. "The doctor came yesterday. He said father needs medicine from the town. It is expensive. We don't have enough money. Mother is crying all the time. I feel so scared. What if something bad happens?" Her small hands were shaking. She looked down at the ground, feeling helpless. She was just a child, but the weight of her father's illness felt too big for her little heart. Mira continued, "Everyone in the house is worried. We don't sleep properly. Mother tries to be strong, but I hear her crying at night. I don't know how to help. I feel useless. I feel like everything is falling apart." Usha listened without interrupting, her kind eyes full of understanding. She could feel Mira's pain as if it were her own. The girl's fear, her confusion, her sadness, all of it wrapped around her like a cold blanket. Mira wiped her tears and said softly, "Daddy, I am losing hope. I don't know how to be brave anymore." Usha slowly lifted Mira's chin so the girl could look into her warm, gentle eyes. "My child," she said softly, "life sometimes feels heavy. But even in the darkest times, we must keep a small light inside our hearts." Mira sniffed and wiped her tears. "How, Daddy? How do I keep that light?" Usha smiled kindly. "Let me tell you a small story." She settled comfortably on the bench and began, "Many years ago, before you were born, there lived a little sparrow in this very village. One night a big storm came. The wind was strong, the rain was loud, and the trees shook. The sparrow was very scared. Her nest fell, and she had no place to hide. She cried and cried because she thought she would not survive. But then, the tiny bird saw a small lantern hanging outside an old farmer's house. The light was very weak, just a little glow. Still, the sparrow flew toward it. She sat under the roof near the lantern, trembling but safe. The storm passed slowly, and by the morning the sky was clear again. The little sparrow lived because she followed that small light. Usha placed her hand gently over Mira's. You see, child, hope is just like that lantern. It may be small, but it can guide you through the biggest storm. Mira listened carefully, her heart feeling a little lighter. Usha continued, Do not think you are useless. Love itself is a kind of strength. Stay close to your mother. Talk to her. Hold her hand. And remember your father needs hope too. Even small kindness can make a big difference. Mira sat quietly for a moment, letting Usha's gentle words fill her heart. The story of the little sparrow stayed in her mind like a warm glow. She took a slow breath, and for the first time in many days, her chest felt a little lighter. I want to try, Daddy, Mira whispered. I want to be brave like the sparrow. Usha smiled proudly. That is the first step, my child. On her way home, Mira walked a little faster. She looked at the sky, noticed the soft morning light, and remembered the tiny lantern in Usha's story. I will keep my hope, she told herself softly. Every step she took felt like a small promise. When she reached home, she saw her mother sitting on the floor, her face tired and worried. Normally, Mira would freeze, not knowing what to say. But today she walked to her mother and wrapped her arms around her gently. Her mother looked surprised. Mira, are you okay? Mira nodded. I'm here, Mama. We will try together. The simple words brought tears to her mother's eyes, but this time they were soft, warm tears. She hugged Mira tightly. For a moment, the house felt less heavy. Over the next few days, Mira changed little things. She woke up early to help her mother with chores. She spoke to neighbors politely, asking if they knew someone who could lend advice about medicines. She kept her father company, holding his hand and telling him tiny stories to make him smile. Every night, she remembered Usha's lantern and whispered, I will not lose my light. Even though the problem was still there, Mira no longer felt lost. She had found a small strength inside herself. Little by little, her hope began to grow, just like a new seed pushing through the soil, reaching toward the sun. Weeks passed slowly, like gentle waves moving across a quiet river. Life was still challenging for Mira and her family, but something inside their home had changed. It was small at first, like a soft light, but it began to grow day by day, with the help of a kind neighbor. Mira's mother learned about a clinic in the nearby town where medicines were cheaper. Another villager offered to take them there on his cart. The villagers, remembering Usha's kindness to everyone, also brought small gifts. Some gave vegetables, some gave a few coins, and some simply came with kind words. Each little act of love helped more than they expected. Mira's father slowly began to improve. His fever came down, and the tiredness in his eyes became lighter. One afternoon, as sunlight filled the room, he held Mira's hand and whispered, Thank you, Beta. You gave me strength. Mira felt her heart bloom like a flower touched by the first morning sun. Her mother smiled more now. The heavy sadness that once filled their home began to fade. At night, instead of crying, she would sit beside Mira and talk softly about better days ahead. Hope had quietly entered their home and made a place for itself. One bright morning, when Mira visited Usha again, she ran to her with happy eyes. Dottie, father is getting better. The doctor said he will be fine soon. Usha's smile was gentle but full of pride. You see, child? Hope may be small, but it grows when we protect it. Mira nodded. She now understood Usha's words deeply. The rain had passed, and the storm inside her heart had calmed. Just like the sparrow from Usha's story, she had followed the tiny light, and it had led her to brighter days. The village, too, seemed warmer. People greeted each other with renewed kindness, reminded that even in hard times, hope can bring beautiful change, and Mira carried that light with her. knowing it could guide her through any storm in the future. No matter how dark or difficult life feels, a small light of hope can guide us toward better days. When we choose to think positively, stay kind, and support one another, even the biggest problems become easier to face. Hope may begin as something small, but when we protect it with courage and kindness, it grows strong enough to change lives.